Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I gave you 4 minutes to join. Still only not only 25%. 25% students have joined in. Good morning. We'll have to wait 2-3 minutes more. Then we'll start. And don't worry, there's no network issue. I'm there. I just allow everybody to come in. Yes, Kishan. Yes, Kishan. That time will come, not right now. Megha, not per se. We are see. As soon as I cover Gupta, ancient is over. So post Gupta is actually early medievalish. So don't worry about that. Though it says I think this is the last class of ancient. In a way, it is the last class of ancient. From tomorrow it will show medieval, but medieval, early medieval, that whole sector is the same. So don't worry about that. As soon as I believe that the main timeline is clear and done, I'll give you a master timeline also. I always do that, which is the master timeline of ancient India, with all the major important developments in one side itself, socio political, economic, three separate timelines for ancient India. We'll do that. Don't worry. I'll give it 1 more minute and then we begin. Good morning. Good morning. In medieval, we would cover till decline of Mughal or decline of Mughal till 1707. Okay. So yesterday we discussed post Maurya. We start. And today's agenda is to understand after post Maurya, we have to discuss the Satavahanas. We've discussed the political history, but something very important will start to develop under the Satavahanas, which will be a problem. And that will be a poison, which will basically, after agriculture, be the reason for most of the issues which will emerge in India very soon. Thereafter, we have to go to Guptas, Vakatakas, and then when we talk about post Gupta, we are basically talking about Harshvardhan, Harshvardhana, Pallavas, and Chalukyas. But till this point, we consider it ancient. Post Gupta and early medieval dynasties are basically a transitionary phase between medieval and ancient India. Here you will have Pala, Pratihara, Rashtrakuta, and Cholas. And then we will go to Delhi Sultanate, which basically would be medieval. So we have to traverse between finishing the core of ancient India, then going into this early medieval phase. And this we can count either in ancient, either in medieval, doesn't matter. Basically, the next two classes is going to be this only. And today is Thursday, right? So by tomorrow, we will be covering early medieval. And from next week, we go into Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate, we will have Vijayanagara Bahamani. Then we will have a discussion on the Mughals, part two classes on Mughals. Then Marathas and Sikhs. and then we'll go into art and culture. So our journey till this point has come quite a long way. We have to just complete ancient India today. Then I will give you a master timeline here. Master timeline with regards to economic, social, and political. Three timelines which summarize the whole of ancient India in one set itself. So now when we talk about the Satavahanas, see Satavahana polity, we already saw Gautamiputra Satkarni, the most important. We discussed a lot of different personalities yesterday. Kanishka, Gautamiputra Satkarni, we discussed Menander, we discussed his wife, Agatha Kothia, and Strato, his son. Thereafter, we had the discussion with regards to Pushyamitra Shunga and Agnimitra. We also had an understanding and a discussion of how there is a lot of flux, there's a lot of trade which is happening at this point of time. India is at its highest point when it comes to external trade. We had Chastana, Rudradaman, Bhumka, Napana with regards to Saka rulers itself, and we tried to understand how did they come. And the last thing we discussed was what we call as Varna Samskara or caste formation, which is the proliferation of Varna identity, which is subcategorization within Varna identity, which is because of assimilation, and what we call as second, the concept of exogamous nature, or what we call as intermixing. So that was the last discussion we had. Though caste as a question cannot be asked in the examination because it's not a subjective area, but I've still tried to give you a basic understanding of what would have happened, which in turn would have led to internal subcategorization within Varna itself. Now, when we talk about the Satavahanas, I held back this aspect of the Satavahanas because it is very important to understand this, because this will dictate the fact that why would India lose out to Gajani? Why would India lose out to Gori? Why would India become what it was in this early medieval period? What was the nature of polity is dictated by what the Satavahanas are going to do, and the Guptas are going to accelerate. And the point is, Satavahanas are Brahmins. And because they are Brahmins, they tend to have this policy of what we call as Vedic, Brahmanical revivalism and Brahmin appeasement. Did any question come from Satavahanas? They asked their capital appeasement. And in this Brahmanical revivalism, which is that after a very, very long time between the Maurya, we can say even 6th century BC, and the Satavahanas, which is 100 BCE from 600 BCE, for 500 years, Buddhism was dominating. Buddhism was dominating, and Buddhism was the state religion for most of these post-Mauryan dynasties also. However, Satavahanas have a quality, which is that they are Brahmins, and they want to revive Vedic Brahmanism and bring it to the forefront again. Now, in order to do this, they started a practice which is going to become a very dangerous practice in the long-term vision, which is land grants to Brahmins. Now, what do you mean by this land grant? This land grant is a tax-free land grant. And why is this land grant problematic? Because land grants do two things at the same point of time. Because the ruler is foregoing the tax of that area, it leads to economic situation, economic impact on revenue and treasury. At the same point of time, it creates landed intermediaries. Basically, local power centers. Local power centers. Because the person who is getting the land grant, he gets the right to collect tax. All rules and regulations are now under the receiver of land grants. So one thing is very clear, that that intermediary is the most important person for that area. And see, land grants to Brahmins, to Buddhists used to happen. It's an okay-ish thing. But land grants can also go out of hand, because if starts as land grants to appease Brahmins, but later, when trade will decline, revenue will contract. What they start to do is a permanent land grant, yes. What they will do is that they will start to give land grant in lieu of service. Basically, officers will be paid in land grants. And what they are basically doing is they are going to introduce feudalistic tendencies in India. Feudalistic tendencies, feudalism does not emerge, obviously. Feudalism never was there. Feudalistic tendencies are there. Feudalistic tendencies means, first, political fragmentation. Second, decentralized control. And third, local power intermediaries as a threat to the empire, to the kingdom or polity. And with feudalistic tendencies comes feudalistic mentality. Feudalistic mentality means issues that do not affect are not their problem. So basically, if there's a major threat, if it does not impact you, you don't get involved. See, the Satavahanas basically have introduced a dangerous tendency. In the process of Brahmanical revivalism, they have started to give land grants to Brahmins. But these Brahmins are now, see, Brahmins were never landed community. Brahmins were never landed community. Brahmins never had land. But they are giving so much land, one village, two villages, some Brahmins, 100 villages, 50 villages. The amount of revenue which the king is foregoing is very high. And more than that, once the Roman trade will start to decline, once international trade is going to start to decline, the issue will be that they will have no money to give to their officers. So what they will start to do, and you will see it with the Gupta period, that there's an acceleration in land grant giving, and the more you give land grants, the more you fragment the polity, because basically you are creating throughout the landscape of that empire local power centers who can later become independent. The genesis of land grant system as a concept is with the Satavahanas, but the problem will actually not be under the Satavahanas. It will become very acute under the Guptas, because there's a major myth with regards to the Guptas, that the Guptas were the golden period of political structures. No, Guptas were the golden period of art and architecture. But when it comes to political, it is a very dangerous period, which I will tell you. So, very simply, a Brahmin gets a land grant is still okay. But now the king has an option. Land grants were previously never an option. Giving land to these officers will basically become a problem. Not in the early period, late period. See, in the flourishing period, when there is a lot of money, these land grants are not needed. These land grants are not needed. You get a royal seal which tells you that this land grant is actually authentic. These land grants will first be given only for religious purpose, religious appeasement purpose. But in their declining phase, even the Kushanas and the Satavahanas, but Satavahanas are the ones who pioneered it, they will start to give land grants to officers. This is a very important point, because by the end of the what we call as late Satavahana, late Kushana period, Roman trade also starts to decline. So this text, which is partly in Sanskrit and Tamil both, these land grants used to define what you will get vis-a-vis that land, and mostly everything was given as a way of appeasement. I will show you why land grants will accelerate under Guptas. But do we understand this tendency? Because both the Guptas and the Vakatakas, Guptas themselves, were actually a product of this process. Guptas themselves, who were Western satrapas, that is Shakas, they are a product of this process itself. Understand this point very clearly. I will be using terms such as feudalistic politics, feudatory, and feudatory mentality. I'm telling you the meaning right now, and I want you to hold on to it. Feudalistic politics means fragmented politics. Feudatory means local power intermediary. They had terms for this also. Maharathi, Mahabhoja, Samanta. That is why you would have known that in Hindi, feudalism is called Samantavad. Samantavad, that word comes from here only, Samantha. These are the words which were used for feudatories, local power centers. Feudatory mentality means not my problem mentality, which I will show you how it was at or was in actually action. Now, Marathi, Mahabhoja, Samanta, feudalistic. Are we clear with regards to these terminologies? Because then I want to go to the Guptas. Yes? Okay. So, when we talk about Satvana administration, land grants in lieu of services, Maharathis and Mahabhojas, which are local rulers who had emerged in the pre-Satvana period, but by Satvanas giving them in the late period a lot of land grants, they will start to become more and more important. We already know that there are different type of officers which were there. but Satavahanas not were not very good in managing their empire. So the way they used to divide their areas was the ahars. That's the only term which you need to know, and this is something which is an ongoing story with regards to that. When we talk about the economy, Satavahanas are not known to be very good with coinage, because I will show you their coins. They tend to reflect a certain amount of decline in coinage, which would also explain why there was a need for land grants when I will discuss with you numismatical history. However, different types of symbols were used by the Satavahanas, and very significantly, this is a Buddhist symbol. And the point is that though they were Vedic Brahmanistic, their coins used to have Buddhist symbols also, which meant that they still were tolerant to the Buddhists and the Jains. And the reason being, which you already should understand and know, which is that because the commercial class is Buddhist and Jain, they can't ignore Buddhism and Jainism, but they are actually out to make sure that Vedic Brahmanism is getting revived. So, if we are clear with regards to post Maurya, and you understand what is land grant, we start the sixth module and the most important one, which is very, very important. I'll tell you what is this. No, that is Raghav, even more dangerous when it comes to feudatory politics. Not my problem is okayish, but when feudatory politics comes through, it is a major problem, which I will demonstrate to you very soon. Can I start Guptas? Okay. Now, module number 6, two chapters in R. Sharma, one chapter in NCRT. If you want to read, you can read this. But what is more important to us is what is the Gupta dynasty? Why is it so important? Now, I'm telling you from the outset, there is a lot of problematic, what we call as categorization or tags which are related to the Guptas. See, when it comes to temple building, when it comes to literature, when it comes to culture, this is the golden age. This is the golden age wherein temple building, literature, and culture, it's a very important phase for a cultural history. But when we talk about politically, fragmentation and decentralization had started to set in. So, when we talk about political power of the Guptas, except for Samudragupta, who also did not control the whole empire, Gupta period is again a transitionary phase towards early medieval politics or fragmentary politics. Now, before we go to that, we already need to know what are the texts which tell us about the Guptas. How do we know about the Guptas? As always, we did it in Mauryas also, and here also. And again, we have a whole set of texts which tell us about that. So, between 300 CE to 600 CE, it is believed that the Guptas flourished. But texts were written at that point of time also, but previously also. Scientifically also, it's a very important phase. We'll discuss that when we'll discuss art and culture. So yes, when it comes to science, when it comes to culture, when it comes to all of that, Aryabhatta, Avarami, all come in this period only, which is Gupta, post-Gupta. Now, again, there are multiple texts which talk about it, and this year again, 2023, one of the texts which is quoted here came directly in the examination. For example, you have the Kamandaka's Niti Sara, which is like the Arthashastra of the Gupta period. Then you had this text which came in the examination, Devi Chandraguptam, and the Devi Chandraguptam was now tagged with a wrong personality. Vishaka Datta we have seen previously. What is the text which is related to Vishaka Datta previously? It talks about the marriage of Chandragupta II with Dhruva Devi. What is the text we've seen? Yes, Mudrakshara. Mudrakshara is a text that these are two texts which are written by Vishaka Datta. Vishaka Datta Mudrakshara talks about the Mauryan period. Devi Chandraguptam talks about the Gupta period. This was a straightforward, straight thing which came from here only. So these are things which matter. Sometimes one question can come out of this area, and just going through this may help you in understanding it. Thereafter, you have Mirchikatika by Sudraka. This is again the story of how Charudatta falls in love with a woman called Vasanta Sena. Now, most of these are classical literatures, which is they are stories. They're stories about people, but they give us a lot of information about the Gupta society, Gupta polity, and even Somadeva's Katha Sarita Gatra. This gives you the story of Southeast Asian countries, how they're connected to India. So the fact that how Hinduism is spreading throughout that Cambodian Vietnam sector, this we get to know through the Katha Sarit Sagara. So this is something which you can't run away from, and you have to have an understanding of this, because the list is not long, it's very straightforward. But in Gupta politics, what is more important is inscriptions. There's a chapter in Nitin Singhania which has been recently added, which is inscriptions. But even before he used to give inscriptions, we used to talk about inscriptions, because the Guptas are very good in saying or telling us what they were doing through inscriptions. And as it is in this period, there's an acceleration in land grants. So there's a lot of inscriptions we get to know. So for example, now the Prayag Prashasti or the Allahabad Prashasti, very important. This is the story through which, or this is the inscription through which, written by his own court poet Hari Sena. This is the court poet of Samudragupta. The court poet of Samudragupta tells us how he conquered the empire. It's basically a prashasti. Prashasti is when you try to eulogize somebody or you try to praise someone through an inscription. Then you have again the Iran Prashasti, which talks about Samudragupta's conquest. Nalanda copper plate inscription. Now copper plates were becoming very common because this is a land charter. This is a land grant. Mostly because land grants needed proof, it was given on copper because it could have survived for a longer period. So this is a story of how Samudragupta gave a village to a Brahmin, and this was for the first time seen in the Nalanda copper plate inscription. Then you have Gaya copper plate inscription, which talks about again how a ruler from Sri Lanka, Mahameghavarman, he wanted to establish a small monastic establishment, which is a residential complex for the monks, Buddhist monks, which is called a vihara. And he said, I want to establish a vihara for the people in your area near in and around Gaya. And Samudragupta says, okay, I give you permission for that. And he was so generous that he gave the land on which that vihara was made. And that has been inscribed by, and that has been actually written down under the Gaya copper plate inscription. Very important that way, because this has been asked again in the examination, that did Mahameghavarman get the permission to establish that vihara? And the answer to that is yes, he was given the permission. Now, then you have the most famous and till today is considered a metallurgical miracle, which is the Mehrauli or Delhi iron pillar. This is a pillar which does not rust and has not been rusting since it was established in 300 and 400 CE period. And for the past 2400 years, it is still has no, the alloy which has been used is such that there is no rusting of that iron pillar itself. Established by Chandragupta II Vikramaditya himself, a very important a very important example of cultural development in the Gupta period. Then we remember Junagadh. Junagadh we already know. Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, Rudradaman. And now how Sudarshan Lake will be first repaired under Samudragupta and later Skandagupta. Basically, this is one document. The Junagadh inscription is one document in which we have years and years of different rulers being documented in that regard. Then you have Pune and Mysore. Pune is very important because this is about Chandragupta to Vikramaditya's daughter giving a land grant, giving a land grant, which is called the Danashana grant. It was called when the wife or the daughter of the king used to give it. And we have the last one, which is Mysore, which is Yashovarman's inscription, which talks about how the Guptas declined. Now the point is, obviously you have to learn this because this is part of altar culture also. But what I'm trying to show you here is in a way is that how land grants are a very important source of history for us. But when they become a source of history, it means that they have also become an ubiquitous way of giving land grants. So can we now move away from this? Can we move away from this and rather go to the more important discussion of Gupta land grants, Gupta polity, and basic understanding? No, Chandragupta to Vikramaditya is not, and Vikramaditya are different people. He's taken the title Chandragupta to Vikramaditya. So I can also call myself Abhishek Mishra Vikramaditya, but that will not make me Ujjain Vikramaditya. Okay. Allahabad Prashasti was written on Ashokan pillar, so if carbon dating was done when it would have been Ashoka period. No, the way we know it that it is basically a Gupta inscription is because it is not written on the side on which the script is different. The Brahmi is a little bit evolved. It has a reference to Samudragupta. It has a reference to Sri Harisena. So we don't carbon date when we already know that the inscription is telling us something. So carbon dating is mostly used for archaeological, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, maximum till IVC. IVC maximum Vedic, not after that. Okay. She did not write the inscription, but yes, she asked the officers to inscribe an inscription in her name. Now, we had the Kushanas, we had the Satavahanas, and we had the Sakas in between them. Now, the Kushanas give birth via land grant based politics to the Guptas. Guptas was basically feudatories of the Kushanas. And out of the Satavahanas will come out what are called what is the religion of Guptas? They're Hindus. I'll tell you, that is again a major issue. Alok, Hindus. Is Vakatakas. They are feudatories of the Satavahanas. Later, they will cease to exist. But basically, the Guptas and the Vakatakas, their areas were in a way interlocking. Wherein the Guptas started with a very big empire, already a very big empire, and they will consolidate it in North India. Vakatakas are in the exact place where Satavahanas were. But a very important point to be seen in this evolution of area is there are two areas which are being marked. One is the area which is colored as the core area, and the other which shows the Western Satrapas are the Sakas. They will remain in the first period. By 450, they will not be there. Which is this area, whitish area, this area. This. Now, this is indicative of something very important. This is indicative of the fact that there is two type of control which the Guptas have. The first type of control which they have is basically there is a core area where the Guptas have direct control. And then they have a periphery in which they have indirect control. And this is a hallmark. Vakatakas, as I told you, are nothing but the feudatories of the Satavahanas. I will discuss Vakatakas once I've covered Guptas. Indirect control and direct control, which is indicative of fragmented, decentralized politics. In a way, though these white parts, were part of the Gupta Empire, the local intermediaries here were actually the more powerful one. The Guptas only control the local intermediaries. The local intermediaries are the ones who actually control the real politics of that area. Gupta administration and Gupta control was limited to the area which you see in pink. That is the area only where they have right proper control, wherein their administrative power has some bearing and it has direct consequences over the king. So that is the centralized area. And the other parts, they are part of the Gupta Empire. They accept the power of the king, but they do not or have no bearing on how it works, on how the Guptas are basically running the empire. They are more or less semi-autonomous. Wherein the sovereignty of the Guptas is absolute in the pink area, while in the white areas there's the power is fragmented. Here in these areas, the king does not really control everything. It is the local intermediaries who are accepting the power of Samudragupta. So when we go into the nature of Vakatakas or even the Guptas, both, they are not centralized empires. The Guptas have been always talked about in very glorious terms, but politically they were not even close to what Ashoka was or the Mauryans were. Mauryans were the first and the last centralized empire in India, because the Guptas are not a centralized empire. They're a decentralized empire. And more than that, later Guptas will be engrossed in certain practices which will fragment this polity even more. What I want to discuss now is that as soon as the Guptas actually came to power, they had a problem which they need to address, and in process of addressing that problem, they are now going to also sow the seeds of feudalistic politics in India. Can we discuss that? Ashoka's empire was centralized, not decentralized. Can we discuss that? Are you understanding the implications of these colors? Are you understanding what I mean by centralized, decentralized? I've already discussed that with you previously. It's a very important understanding which you need to develop, because this will explain to you why was it so easy for Gori to come, or rather Ghazni to come 17 times. Why was it so easy for Gori to defeat our rulers? All of this starts here. Fragmentary polity will start from the Satavahanas, but the Guptas will accelerate it. Now, what is decentralization? As I've already told you, in a centralized polity, the king controls the bureaucracy. Through the bureaucracy, the people are controlled. That is called centralized control, wherein the king appoints these and he can remove it. They're accountable to the king. King is the only center of power. In a decentralized system, that is not the case. In a decentralized system, the king only controls the local power intermediary. The local power intermediary controls the people. Power is dispersed. Till the king is powerful, the local power intermediary will act with the king. As soon as the king is gone or the king is very weak, the local power intermediary can become independent. Basically, think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. A decentralized system is till you are holding that area, you're holding that area. You have to bring all these Maharathis, Mahabhojas, Samantas together, but each one of them in themselves are a local polity in itself. And if the centralized power becomes weak, they will fragment themselves automatically. So intermediary, feudatory is the same system, same thing, same thing. I told you I'll be using the word feudatory, and I showed you the meaning of that also. Feudatory means that they are local power intermediaries. This is what I wrote here also. Local power intermediary. Can we discuss Gupta issues and how they accelerate land grant systems? Are we all on the same page? Do you understand these technical terms? Come on. I told you there is much more to ancient India than just facts. Yes? Okay. Now, Guptas are what, Varna? Very good. Well, you know it, but the Guptas don't want you to know it. See, Guptas, it is believed, were Vaishya origin. But can Vaishyas rule? No. So, though the Guptas have captured power, they have emerged as a powerful feudatory, and they have, in a way, overthrown the Kshatriyas, or overthrown not even the Kshatriyas. Let's talk about Kushanas. The problem is they do not have the right ritualistic Varna status. So the Guptas can be the most powerful kingdom in the world, but only Kshatriyas are known to and have respect for ruling. So the Guptas have a problem. They have established themselves. However, the identity is Vaishya. Now, who has the power to change this identity, or who can mask the identity of the Guptas? Very good. Guptas want to change their identity, and the only people who can do that are Brahmins. Wherein the Brahmins have the power to project a Kshatriya status, wherein basically in all rituals and ceremonial meetings, the Brahmins can manipulate the status. But a Brahmin will not do it for random, you want to see goodwill. Land grants. Now, this is the symbiotic relationship which will basically accelerate land grants in the Indian subcontinent. Basically, the Brahmin, while sitting in that in the ritual, is going to say, no, no, they are not Vaishyas, they are Kshatriyas. There's a misunderstanding. गलत है, गलती से हो गया. We were wrong in giving them the status of Vaishya. They have always been Kshatriyas. So basically, a Brahmin can, or Brahminism or Brahmin community, the Purohits, can change the status of the Guptas, and in return, the Guptas literally started to give 10 times more land grants than the Satavahanas. And the more they give land grants, the more they are fragmenting. So more land grants means more fragmentation. And for the same reason, because of the Gupta period, because of the Gupta accelerated land grants, Brahmins will emerge as very, very, very powerful landed intermediaries. Because Brahmins were given 10 village, 5 village, 10. The level of land which the Brahmins used to control, Brahmins were the controllers of knowledge, were not the controllers of land. The landed Brahmin community is basically a origin of the Guptas. Satavahanas did it, but not at the scale at which the Guptas are doing it, at a scale which is astonishingly very, very, very dangerous for the Indian subcontinent. Now, now, in the process of doing this, what is the evidence for this? Thousands and thousands of copper plate land grants with Brahmanical names, and Brahmins been given that. The copper plate inscriptions which we are talking about, that is only the tip of the iceberg. Throughout rural countryside, till today, if in certain areas we excavate these copper plate land grants, certain communities of Brahmins which hold land today also refer to their landed nature to certain copper plate land grants. So there is evidence, don't worry, nobody is making this up, not neither am I making this up. There's enough evidence to indicate an accelerated nature of land grant, which is indicative of through inscriptions which are found in this period. So there's evidence to indicate that they are Vaishyas. There's indication for the change manipulated Varna status also, and there's evidence for accelerated Brahmanical land grant processes also. So are we clear with regards to why would there be a major push to land grants in this period? Okay. So Guptas want to change their status, and that is the origin of the land grant acceleration. Now, one more very important thing, the thing which will happen vis-a-vis this is that with Brahmins getting land grants, with Brahmins getting land grants, and the Guptas themselves being Hinduistic or Hinduism, or rather we say Vedic Brahmanism, these two things will lead to resurgence of Vedic Brahmanism. And the most important aspect is early Hinduism is going to change itself. And this is a very important juncture in our polity and in our religious history. Please pay attention again. See, be it the Mauryan period, be it the pre-Mauryan period, be it the post-Mauryan period, Buddhism was always winning. Buddhism was the most popular religion, and Vedic Brahmanism was trying to find its feet vis-a-vis getting political power. Now, under the Guptas, they have political power. Under the Guptas, they have political power. Finally, the Brahmins have political power because the Guptas literally need to every year on year do something for the Brahmins so that the status remains Kshatriya. So the Guptas have given Brahmins a lot of political power, and now the Brahmin community figures out where did we go wrong? Why is that Vedic Brahmanism lost to Buddhism? Why is that there is a need for Buddhism to survive, or rather Buddhism is flourishing vis-a-vis any other force? And they came up with a explanation. The explanation was Buddhism was open, was flexible. So it allowed foreigners to enter also. It had indigenous population also. Buddhism was a little open. And now the Brahmins say that we need to change our emphasis from the Vedas. We need to move away from the core Vedas, which is basically based on rituals and sacrifices and is very orthodox. Sacrifice is very orthodox. And rather, we should move away from it and move to a new set of texts, which is the Upanishads and the Puranas. And the Upanishads are basically the last part of the Vedas. They're called also Vedanta. Vedanta, Vedo ka ant, Vedant and Upanishad. Guptas did not remove Kshatriyas as rulers. Kushanas were in a way Kshatriyas, Kshatriya status. Now, Upanishads are the philosophy of the Vedas, but what is more significant is the movement to Puranas. And within the Puranas, a very important Puran was called the Bhagavad Puran. The Bhagavad Puran is basically the origin of the Dashavatar concept of Vishnu. The Dashavatar concept of Lord Vishnu basically comes out of the Bhagavad Puran. And that is why we believe that Vedic Brahmanism, what I have been saying for the past 6 classes, Vedic Brahmanism, which is early Hinduism, will now become what is called as Puranic or Bhagavatism. Puranic Hinduism, which we today know as Hinduism. What today Hinduism is also affected by Bhakti movement, which is the last unit of medieval. But now Hinduism is coming through. And this Hinduism is based on the 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu. And the most important feature about Puranic Bhagavatism or Puranic Hinduism is assimilatory. Meaning what it will do is that it will start to appropriate the different gods across India. Wherein, for example, they will go to, for example, the Tirupati Parvat, the whole Tirumala mountain range, and they will see Lord Venkateshwara. And they will say, yes, he is Lord Venkateshwara, but did you know that he is Lord Vishnu? Then they will go to the Odisha sector. They will see the Jagannath puja and the Jagannath cult, and they will say, did you know this is also Lord Vishnu? Padma Swami, Lord Vishnu, and goddesses will be brought together under the concept of Shakti. That all these goddesses has to get together vis-a-vis the concept of Shakti. So now what they're doing is that they're applying the Puranic Hinduistic practices, Puranic, what we call as Bhagavatistic practices. This is again out of a syllabus in a way. But I'm discussing it because we're talking about Vedic Brahmanism and Brahmanical revivalism. The fact is now the Dashavatar concept is going to become assimilatory. Now they will add become a little bit more flexible. What is basically today Hinduism is flexibility. But the master stroke, which will basically destroy Buddhism forever, which will destroy Buddhism forever, is going to be a major blow to Buddhism, is that within the Dashavatars, within the Dashavatar, one of the avatars was, guess who? Yes, Buddha. They basically destroy the constituency of Buddhism. The Brahmins go to the Buddhists and say, who do you worship? They say Buddha. अरे बोलते तुम्हें, अरे what a coincidence. Our Lord Vishnu reincarnated as Buddha. So you have actually been worshipping Buddha as Lord Vishnu, or Lord Vishnu as Buddha. Now, basically, they've destroyed the whole constituency of Buddhism, because now you can say anything and everything, but now the idea that Buddha is Lord Vishnu, there is no way you can come back. There is no way. The concept of Lord, not the concept. Bhagavad Puran, these Puranas are, see, there are different texts in Hinduism. Certain texts are Indra oriented. Certain texts are Shiva oriented. Certain texts are Vishnu oriented. Bhagavad Puran is the most important text which they pick up, which allowed them that space to add gods. And the point is that the Bhagavad Puran doesn't say that Buddha is the avatar of Lord Vishnu. That is the modified text which will be made. But there was a need to destroy the constituency of Hinduism, of Buddhism. The fact of the matter is, after this point, that is why after the Gupta period, there was never a time when Buddhism was ever going to dominate further. Because, see, you need to understand something. You can talk about the origin of Buddha. You can talk about his Kanthanka, you can talk about his meditation. But here they have literally sown a seed which says that, okay, the 32 marks which you saw was because Lord Vishnu has these 32 marks. Basically, now Hinduism is going to become a pan-Indian religion. It will appropriate all religions. That is why you would have seen that Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva have different names in different areas. There could be a, for example, and this is not something new. There could be that the place where you live, there would be a god whose name is not Lord Vishnu, but he is considered the reincarnation or an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. This is basically the origin of what we call as polytheistic, what we call as Hinduism today, which is a very diluted version of Vedic Brahmanism. Vedic Brahmanism was very rigid. It was rigid. It was very sacrifice and ritual oriented. It was more or less towards Indra, the Varun, the Aditi, these gods which are basically based on what we call as nature, on nature. At the same time, we have a whole in South India itself. There were two different identities emerging, which is two very important gods emerging: Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. And we know that Shiva followers and Vishnu followers have fought over a period of time also. However, what the Gupta period does is it takes away all of this confusion and basically creates a religion which is self-encompassing, and there's no need for conflict itself. So the point is now Buddhism can't come out, and Buddhism cannot, they can say anything and everything, but it will not work only. The best is Lord Padmanabh Swami, Lord Venkateshwara, Lord Jagannath, all are considered avatars of Lord Vishnu. But in the original pantheon, you will not find their names, wherein it will be a process which will start in the Gupta period and start to evolve over a period of time. This is what basically Hinduism is, a diluted version of Vedic Brahmanism. That is why I make a very clear distinction between Vedic Brahmanism and Hinduism. Because Hinduism, as we practice it today, is called Bhagavatism. What we follow is called Puranic Hinduism. Now, a lot of you can't fathom your head around it. And it may also be something new which you get to know today. If you really are so interested, because for this is not exam oriented understanding. If you want to read about this, Upinder Singh has a whole chapter on this. Upinder Singh, there's a specific section on Puranic Hinduism. If you really want to read it, read it. But what you're asking me are absolutes. I can't answer in absolutes. I'm telling you the process of how it happens. How it happened, why didn't there was this, that answer no one has. But this is how we see, and this is how scriptures also tell us about the evolution of Vedic Brahmanism to Hinduism. Yes, yes, Shreyank. That is why, in order to reconcile the conflicts between Lord Vishnu's and Lord Shiva's followers, now they become complementary to each other. That if you have one avatar which is Lord Vishnu, there will be a companion which will be Lord Shiva. So Lord Rama, Lord Hanuman. The standard concept comes through. That this is how they reconcile. The point was there was a need for unity within Hinduism, which was brought in within the concept of what we call as Puranic Hinduism. And for me, this part doesn't really matter. What matters is a question which you would have asked me, or how is that Buddhism today has no real following in India? How can it be that a religion which dominated throughout 6 to 700 years, and today you basically sometimes even call Buddhist Hindu? Are you getting my point? Why was that Buddhism forever lost to Hinduism? The reason is that they basically destroyed the constituency. They said that this इनको कहीं देखा है. We've seen Buddha somewhere. The Pandit says, we've seen Buddha somewhere. He says, bring the book. Oh yes, this is Lord Vishnu. आप बोलते रहो जो बोलना है. You can say anything and everything, but there will be no coming back from this. And the concept which you need to understand is it could be true also, it could not be true. That is faith. I am telling you the historical way in which it happened. And a very important point you need to understand is also Hinduism today is actually a direct product of the Bhakti movement. So I would want you to just hold on to this thought, cover medieval, and then under Bhakti movement we'll take it forward. Can we do that? Because in Hinduism today, there's a lot of influence of Lord Shankara, of Lord Ramanuja, Saint Shankara, Saint Ramanuja. There's a lot to be taught now with regards to this. Jainism, Sanskar, in certain stories, Mahavira is also so. But Jainism was never a threat to Hinduism, because Jainism never had a very strong constituency. So Jains were that ways still considered a little bit separate, and the rules regulations were so separate that the Vedic Brahmanism was more about a straightforward fight between Hinduism and Buddhism. And that is why you will see that the reason why the Bhakti movement starts, please understand this point, the reason why the Bhakti movement starts in South India is that once this Bhagavatism concept comes in North India under the Guptas, now Buddhists and Jains start to move southwards. And in South India, the Brahmanical practices were a little bit too orthodox. And it is the conflict between Buddhism and Brahmanism, which is Buddhism versus Hinduism, that will lead to the Allavars and the Nayanars to emerge. So we'll discuss that. But this is a much more complex process than what I'm telling you. There's much more backstory which you need to know, but that the problem is, for that you have to go in very deep understanding of Gupta, what we call as Gupta, post-Gupta, pre-Gupta society. If you are really interested in reading this, I'm telling you the subsection. Upinder Singh, History of Ancient and Early Medieval India. You can go and read the Puranic Hinduism section. Puranic Hinduism, Tantricism section is very well written by her, but that needs nuance. That needs nuance. Can I move away from this discussion? Because this was a discussion which I should have had in the end, but I'm having it here because I'm telling you how does Brahmanism become. And do you not understand the coincidence? That why is that temple building starts only after the Gupta period or during the Gupta period? Are you getting the correlation now? Are you getting the correlation? That temple building will become very, very common because now across India there will be one pantheon. And under that pantheon, now you will have the Varaha temple, the temples which will emerge, Lord Vishnu, all will come together. This is why temple building was not there previously, because Buddhism was too powerful. That is why Buddhist architecture dominated. Temple building will become Nagara style, Dravida style. That style will emerge, and that is why there's a major difference in style also. Nagara and Dravida don't match too much because Dravida existed in a way was developing independent of the Nagara style in North India, which we'll discuss in art and culture. Everything is related. Everything is in a way logically related. Our history does not work in random directions. There's a period in which they just turn the switch and they turn the tables on Buddhism. It's not that we there's something which Buddhists are doing, which which Hinduistic practice are not doing. But it is from understanding from Hinduism, or rather from Buddhism, that you have to be flexible, you have to be more open. So temple building, yes, temple building starts only in the Gupta period. All temples, the first temples are attributed to Gupta post-Gupta period. No temples existed before that, except for Nagara style, in the Nagara style for sure. Now, can I go back to discussing the political history of these personalities? Buddhism also took Hinduistic ideas. It's not, see, your fairness, your justice doesn't matter, because we are sitting in 2023 and talking about this. History doesn't work with judgment of the future. It works with the judgment of the present in which they are. This was a needed thing which was done. End of story. Did Varna system exist? Yes, obviously Varna is there. In Gupta period, there will be further Varna Samskara, caste formation. Varnagara style, I will tell you, don't worry. A lot of you are getting caught up there. I'll tell you that. But Nagara style origin is basically in the pre-Gupta period. Before that, I will show you Chaitya Vihara, we will do that. But as soon as we come to the Gupta period, we go to temple construction. Temple architecture is all Gupta, pre-Gupta, post-Gupta. Can we go back to the main story? Yes. The two parts of revivalism were land grants and assimilation. Perfect. Okay. Now, for the purpose of the examination, as I told you, in Satavahanas in south and the Kushanas in north were holding India, and the Kushanas will, in a way, start to give land grants, learning from the Satavahanas, and that will give the origin of the Guptas in that regard. Now, the political history vis-a-vis the Guptas, there are 2 to 3 very celebrated rulers. One is Samudragupta, everybody knows about him. And the second one is Chandragupta Vikramaditya. He is called Chandragupta II Vikramaditya. One thing very important. It is these later rulers after Kumar Gupta that will basically start to do what we call as the international trade will decline and land grants to officers will increase. So till this point, it was more about Brahmanical appeasement. After that point, it is international trade, which basically starts to decline, and land grants to officers will increase because there's a fiscal crisis which will come in. And this fiscal crisis is going to divide the empire further, which you need to understand. Now let's talk about them. Once we talk about them, I'll give you a break. Sri Gupta is the founder of the dynasty, takes the title of Maharaja. According to Itsing, Sri Gupta built a Buddhist vihara at a very important place. But you can see he is again a Gupta ruler. He's a Hindu, but he builds Buddhist viharas because the commercial classes are still holding on to Buddhism. Then comes the first major ruler, which is Chandragupta II, Chandragupta I. Now, please remember, Chandragupta Maurya is a Mauryan ruler. His name is Chandragupta. If it says only Chandragupta or Gupta, Chandragupta, it is Chandragupta. If it says Chandragupta to Maurya, it is a Mauryan ruler. This much blunder you will not do in the examination, that you are shifting from Maurya to Gupta and Gupta to Maurya. That you should not do. Thereafter, he is the first major ruler. He believed in, I have to repeat this also. Chandragupta Maurya is Mauryan ruler. Chandragupta I or Chandragupta only if it is written, Chandragupta I is a Gupta ruler. Difference of close to 600 years between them. So don't mess this up. Read the whole name. Chandragupta Maurya or it is written Chandragupta. Both are different. Now, they should have taken different names. Sure, I give you a time machine, go back and tell them that. For good, they've not taken too many different names, because then you would have to learn the different names also. Okay. Whatever they do, you have to learn. Now, he believed in matrimonial alliances. Wherein he made sure that the Nepal border became proper, because he married a princess, a Lichvi princess who was basically of the Lichvi tribe in the Nepal sector. And he is the one who starts a new era also, which is called the Gupta era. If Sri Gupta started Gupta era, why it is mentioned? No, Sri Gupta is... Sri Gupta starts the Gupta dynasty. Chandragupta I is the one who establishes the empire properly and then starts the Gupta era. Because Sri Gupta did not have an empire which was stable enough. So rather, it is Chandragupta I who has the power to now say that I start my own calendar, which is the Gupta calendar, which is 319 CE, is called as Gupta era 1. But the problem is that Gupta era or the Gupta calendar nobody really uses. So I told you there are 4 different calendars. 1 Gregorian, Saka, Vikram, Gupta. Gupta because the number is too big. And the dates become too small. 319 if you are going to subtract, and as it is, politically the Guptas were not powerful enough later to enforce this also. It is only the first 2-3 rulers. In certain inscriptions, in all of their inscriptions, they use Gupta at calendar only. But after that, there was nobody took it forward. That is a point you need to understand. Nobody took it forward because the Guptas politically were very fragmented. So, very simply, Gupta matrimonial alliance starts the Gupta era. But the most celebrated ruler of this whole set is Samudragupta. He is considered exactly the opposite of Ashoka. He loved conquest, and he is going to expand the empire very rapidly. Harisena is his... Harisena. Sometimes you will find 2 spellings. Harisena, Harisena. Both are the same, but the problem is there's a Vakataka ruler also called Harisena. So you have to pay attention which ruler it is. So Harisena is the court poet of Samudragupta, and he will now write the Prayag Prashasti as a way of telling us what did he do. Now, why Chandragupta Maurya has Gupta in his name? What should I answer that? He can keep any name he wants. So he kept the name Chandragupta. Abhay, father kept it. What can Chandragupta Maurya do? So there's no categorical reason. It's like, why did my father kept my name Abhishek? Because Abhishek Bachchan already existed. You're asking me that way. So the answer to this question is it's a name. Anybody can keep any name, and that ways they are the ones who are have impersonating Chandragupta Maurya, because Chandragupta Maurya was there 600 years before them. So they are the problem, not him. वो तो बेचारा अपना नाम अच्छा ही रखा था, चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य. They made it Chandragupta. So they are the copycats, not him. So please understand this point, right? He didn't know that in a future dynasty there will be a person called Chandragupta who will impersonate him. Get my point? They are the impersonators. They are the fake people, not him. Okay. Now, when we read the Prayag Prashasti, now please pay attention. This is the translation of the Prayag Prashasti in a way that it divides the way he conquered in the Indian subcontinent. Now you will notice something. You don't have to learn this. Do not learn this. But in the Prayag Prashasti itself, Harisena uses different terms for different areas. Now, pay attention that how decentralization is indicated in Harisena's writing also. I'll tell you how. See, he says that the princes of Yamuna and Ganga Duab were incorporated in the Gupta Empire. Incorporation means to add. Then the areas of Nepal, Assam, Bengal, they were also incorporated. Thereafter, till Vindhya region, which are called the Atavika Rajas, which were in the Vindhya Satpura range. Now he's changed the term, brought under his control. And by the time you go to, for example, Kanchi in Tamil Nadu, Deccan, South, he now starts to use were compelled to recognize his suzerainty. Suzerainty means overlordship. And the Sakas and the Kusanas were also incorporated. So you can see that he is using three terms for expansion: incorporation, under control, and accept overlordship or suzerainty. So you can see in Harisena's writing itself that there is a way in which decentralization is already set in. Yes, Samudragupta reached till Kanchipuram, but he never controlled Kanchipuram thereafter. For the purpose of the discussion, yes, he had control over, or Samudragupta could have claimed that he had gone till Kanchipuram, but once he went back, they accepted that there's a person called Samudragupta. We will not fight with him, but they were independent. This is the difference between a directly controlled area and an indirectly controlled area. Very significant that way. So this is a specimen of fragmentation and the specimen of decentralization. Are you understanding this? I'm not asking you to learn this. I'm asking you to analyze it and understand it, how these things are actually, how a single inscription can give you so many indications of things which may not be very obvious automatically. Right? Right? Okay. Now let's do, so we already know Mahamegh asking for a Buddhist vihara near Gaya, and the land is given. And when we'll talk about his coins, we'll talk about how he's represented in multiple ways. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a break here because now it's becoming heavy. Rulers are left, and I have a more important discussion to do after this. So it is 7:23. We come back at 7:35. When we come back at 7:35, coins, numismatics, I'll do in art and culture. When we come back at 7:36, we'll take the story forward. Right? Okay? Till this point, anybody has any issue? Anybody has any issue? No? Perfect. So see you at 7:36. Welcome back. There's no glitch. There's no glitch. Okay. Right. We've reached till Samudragupta. Now we have to just go through the remaining rulers. Once we've covered that, we've discussed in a way religion. We've discussed Puranic Hinduism. We've discussed the concept of how Gupta's status is changing from Vaishya to Kshatriya itself. One aspect which is left is on caste formation, Varna Samskara, is that how there's a further process of proliferation, which we'll discuss. The third process which is there. But generally, when we talk about Gupta, there are only three areas which questions can be asked. One would be the contribution of these rulers, which I'm discussing with you. Second would be the literature part, which I've given you one list. Now I'll discuss Kalidas with you also. And the third would be basically these processes if land grant systems or feudalistic tendencies are asked. So not a lot of questions can be made from this area. And generally, UPSC has stayed away from Gupta proper, what we call as political history. So they've been asking about feudalistic politics. I will show you that question on tomorrow, which is Friday. We'll see. So when we talk about Chandragupta II, Vikramaditya, he is the last major ruler who had the power to exert his will or interest over others. Because after this, more or less, the Guptas will start to decline. Now, for him, when we talk about Chandragupta Vikramaditya, the iron pillar is a highlight of his career generally because he's been remembered for that. It is in the Qutub complex itself. But his expansionary power was also an important aspect because he will basically take away everything from the Shakas. So the Shakas, whatever they will basically loiter around or be around that Gujarat sector, he will basically take the Shaka Kshatrapas, he will destroy their power, and now there are only two powers existing, Guptas and the Vakatakas. Fayan, when he will come later, he will talk about the power of Chandragupta Vikramaditya, and he is generally considered the last major ruler, as I have reiterated twice now. We all know about Meroli pillar. He had direct contacts with Europe and Egypt. Generally, he was the one who allowed literature to flourish because under his patronage, one of the most celebrated poets and authors existed, which is Kalidas, Amar Simha, Vishaka Datta, and the physician Dhanvantari. So Kalidas basically got patronage from Chandragupta II Vikramaditya. That is a highlight not for Kalidas, but rather for Chandragupta II, wherein the most celebrated ancient poet got patronage from the last major ruler of the Guptas. Now, Kumar Gupta, we'll talk about Kalidasa's work in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Kumar Gupta is known for a very important concept, which is Nalanda University was established by him. Now, this is again a very interesting thing that he is a Hindu ruler, but the most celebrated Buddhist Mahayanic learning center, which is Nalanda, was established under Kumar Gupta. Very, very, very important aspect about you will study Nalanda with me, Nalanda, Vikramshila, and the other, for example, Odantapuri and other important Buddhist learning centers. But Nalanda University, which even Hyun Sang came India for, and close to 10,000 students and teachers together used to operate. And because of the fact that in G20, Prime Minister Modi was standing in front of that Nalanda picture, it has now become equally important to know more about the Nalanda University. So the Nalanda University, Kumar Gupta, very, very important. Mahayanic School of Learning was the syllabus, or you can say the curriculum was towards the Mahayanic School of Buddhism, not the Hinayanic. So we'll talk about that. It is said Samudragupta also constructed Nalanda. It may be said it, I don't know who said it, but it is Kumar Gupta. So please, for the purpose of the examination, Kumar Gupta is the one who established Nalanda. I don't know where you're getting that information from, which is Samudragupta and Nalanda, but for the purpose of the examination, it will be Kumar Gupta, Nalanda University. Thereafter, you have Skand Gupta. Skand Gupta again is the one who is able to consolidate. I told you he's the last major. After Chandragupta to Vikramaditya, the rulers have started to see a little bit of issues. Skand Gupta is the only one who did not have any external threat. So he will now start to see by the end of his career the northwestern sector becoming problematic, wherein a tribe from Central Asia, which is called the Huns or the Hunas, whatever you want to call them, they will now start to come from this area. This was again a strength of the Mauryan Empire, that they had a border in the form of the northwestern sector, which had the Seleucid Empire or the Greeks, and therefore they were always very stable in that sector. Now, when it comes to Guptas, now the issues are emerging. And the issue is that now from the northwestern sector, they have a pressure from the Hunas or the Huns, who are basically creating more and more political pressure and expansionary military pressure. And that is obviously going to take a toll on the polity itself. His, his governor of the Gujarat sector has been seen to repair the Sudarshan Lake. And this is the last major ruler who was associated with the Sudarshan Lake. From Chandragupta Maurya to Ashoka to then Rudradaman to then Skandgupta. So Samudragupta is also mentioned in the Junagadh inscription. Then you have Narsim Gupta Bal Aditya. So you have Narsim Gupta Bal Aditya. He is significant because Hyun Sang again refers to the fact that he embraced Buddhism and built a Mahavihara at Ratnagiri. This is again a very interesting set of information. While Gupta sources don't talk about it, Hyun Sang for sure talks about the fact that how Baladitya changed towards Buddhism, and he will defeat a major ruler of the Hunas, which is going to be Mihir Kula. Thereafter, Vishnu Gupta, last major ruler of the Gupta dynasty. Basically, once the Guptas will decline, they will be parceled by their feudatories. So, when we talk about the political history of the Guptas, very simply, straightforward, you just have to know about Kumar Gupta very clearly because of Nalanda University. You need to know about Samudragupta as an expansionary ruler. You need to know about the Huna threat under Skandgupta and Mihir Kula being defeated by Baladitya. Other than that, you don't have to delve into this too much. We've now discussed the origin of the Guptas, their political history, the concept of Puranic Hinduism, and vis-a-vis all of this, we've also understood how the Guptas had a decentralized administrative control. The golden age of what we call today as an art and culture may be true for the Gupta period, but not politically. Politically, there's a whole gradation of decline which is going through. So if all of this is clear, we can now shift our attention towards other important aspects. And the last major important aspect is actually the concept of Varna Samskara and the third process. We can do that? Okay. Now, as I said, Kalidas, you have to remember his works. And fortunately for you, UPSC has already asked two of them. So Kalidasa's work, Abhigyan Shakuntalam, this is the most celebrated of his work, which is where you have Shakuntala and Dushyanta getting married, and it's a story of their love, and generally a love story. Kalidasa is known to write dramas and poems equally important for your preparation. However, Abhigyan Shakuntalam is too obvious. Everybody knows about it. Then Malvika Agnimitra has been already asked, which is, as I told you, a story between a Shunga ruler Agnimitra and Malvika. This was asked very directly, saying that which of the following texts talk about a story between a Shunga ruler with a Gupta woman. And they did not refer to Malvika, they did not refer to Agnimitra, because the name itself has the both names, Malvika, Agnimitra. So they refer to just a Shunga ruler and Kalidasa poem or Kalidasa drama. So you just had to know Malvika, Agnimitra. Then the ones which have not been asked till this point is Vikram Vishivyam and Kumar Sambhavam. Now, Vikramaditya with Urvashi is one marriage story or one marriage drama, which is again not asked in the examination. Kalidasa has been attributed to it. Thereafter, you have Kumar Sambhavam, which is again the story of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Here again, there is an aspect of something which can be asked. Maybe these two, one drama, one poem, has not been asked. Then again, Meghdoot has been asked. Meghdoot is a very interesting text because for two reasons. See, Meghdoot is also the name of the cloud systems which now the government of India uses. But the more interesting aspect is that in Meghdoot there is a lot of geographical history given, or what is called historical geography, wherein the story is that from the Vindhya mountains, a cloud which is Megh is sending a message, or a person, what is called a yaksha yakshi. Basically, a person is sending a message to his wife who is in the Himalayas. So the point of that message is not important. What is more important is that Kalidasa was cognizant of the fact that there is a Vindhya Satpura range and there's the Himalayas. He's talking about the directions also totally correct. And he's also talking about the wind directions and the way of movement. Basically, he's describing the historical geography between Vindhya Satpura range and Himalayas. So rather than saying he's going towards the south, he's going towards the north, which is again very significant because there is no satellite imagery, there is no modern technology to tell him which direction is the Vindhya Satpura range and which is the Himalayas. This is the interesting aspect about Meghdoot, which is it gives a lot of information about this Gupta geography in that regard. Then you have Ritu Samagra, which talks about the different seasons of India. And then last is Raghuvamsa, which is an incomplete story or incomplete poem, which he was writing before that he died. Now, Kalidas was accompanied by other important personalities of this period also. For example, you have Vishnu Sharma, which is Panchtantra. I hope that you are not that generation which does not know about Panchtantra. Panchtantra are children's stories which give you morality, which tell you about ethics in that regard. Panchtantra, Vishnu Sharma, rather very important. Then Amar Simha, Amar Kosha, Sanskrit lexicon. Lexicon means it's a grammar book. It's a grammar book, very important for Sanskrit. Then Vararuchi, Prakrit grammar book. Again, equally important. One, two, three. Then you have Dhanvantri, which is the directory or in a way commentary on Ayurveda, equally important. Shushruta, he is the father of surgery or the oldest surgeon known to this world, which is a book on surgery in the Shushruta Samhita was also written during the Gupta period. And we will discuss astronomy and Aryabhatta, Varamira, Bhaskara, and Brahmagupta when we will discuss art and culture. But as all of you pointed out, and as I said, the fact that when it comes to astrology, when it comes to maths, when it comes to Ganit, which is maths, over and above that, we have temple architecture, we have literature, we have drama, all flourishes quite a lot. This is the golden age of art and culture. However, politically, there's a totally contrasting story of fragmentation, which does not really give you the right picture. Or if you will read the inscriptions which are basically given by the Guptas themselves, they tend to talk about them or nobody is going to criticize oneself, but the point is they give a very distorted picture of polity. So polity wise, there's a lot of decentralization. However, culturally, it is golden age for sure. Is a very important point you need to remember because again, lot of misinformation. When we talk about administration, again, they can't have a very elaborate administration because their administration only works within their core area. Within their core area, outside that core area does not matter what officer you have because that officer will not have power generally. It is just in that core area that basically the power is concentrated in. So the way the whole Gupta Empire was divided, Uparika was the one who used to administer a bhukta. Bhukta is the biggest unit. Then you have the Vishya, which is under Vishyapati. And then you have the grama, which is under a gramika. So basically, three levels of administration, exactly like the same, the level of province or state, district, village. And Uparika, Vishyapati, Grama or Gramika are the three officers which are taking care of the big things which are happening at this level. You could also have a city which could be administered by merchants, which makes more sense, and that would be called a Nigama Sabha. Nigama Sabha is a town which has no maybe Gramika or Vishyapati. It has a Nigama Sabha, which is that all the merchants come together and figure out how to administer that place in that regard. These terms are important. It's in a township in that regard. Now, the same thing now in written form. Don't have to go through it in proper detail, but as I said, Bhukti under Uparika, then Vishya under Vishyapati. Now, what is even Gramika is not a women controller, is a person who controls the village. Gramika. So Gramika means the one who controls the village. Now, thereafter, you have different administrative terminologies related to who manages these things. For example, see, there are different words which are used for settlements. Vithi, Pata, Bhumi, Petha. And there are different officers which are linked to it. Ayuktas and Vithi Mahamatras. Now, when it comes to Gupta text, there's multiplicity of terms. So there is no real clarity. You don't have to, there's nothing to understand here. What you have to understand is that there is multiplicity of terms. All terms are coming together, and there's a whole chaotic way in which they are using multiple terms for multiple things. Bhukta, Uparika, and Grama is okay. Or Vishti or Vish, that is okay. But other than that, till this point, it is there's a sane way in Vishya, Bhukta, and village. But thereafter, there are multiple. Gramika is a man. Gramika is a man. Now, this concept goes further in the official ranking system also of the Guptas, wherein in different seals we found multiple terms. For example, Amatya, Kumar Amatya. Now, they have not defined how these are different. Kumar Amatya may be a person who is linked to the king or is related to the king, but Amatya is also a word which is related to an officer, executive officer. So the point is that different seals, different texts are giving us different set of officers. And there are multiplicity of terms, and therefore, unlike the Mauryas, where I gave you a table straightforward, this means this, this means this means this, it's not possible here, because the Guptas themselves are confused in a way in what sense they are using what. So you will have Kumar Amatya in some place you will have Amatya. Now, what is the difference between Kumar Amatya and Amatya is not very clear. And the same way, their kings also used to take multiple titles. Maharaja Raja, Parameshwara, somebody is taking Parambhatraka. The point is, again, there's no consistency. So Gupta terminologies, that is why is easier to go with, because there's already too much confusion within the Gupta text itself. So you don't have to get flustered over it that I have to run all of this. Whatever is stable is in front of you. Because unlike where I told you Tirtha, Adhyaksha, this, that is not possible here. Because there's no proper definitional difference between them. Rather, we have these random words which have been written. For example, see, Kumaramatya, which could be a officer, which could be a high-ranking officer also. Same point of time that you have certain texts which refer to different types of officers, and the names are here. So, which ones are the important ones? See, Sholkika. Now, this is something which you can easily learn, because Shulk means custom itself. So, Sholkika is something which you don't need to learn. Then you have Mahadandnayaka. Do you need to learn the fact that Dandnayak would be related to justice? You tell me. Dandnayak would be related to justice. No, because Dand Nayak justice or police. Okay. Thereafter, the ones which you have to remember is first Sandhi Vigrahaka. Now, what is the Hindi of treaty? What is the Hindi of treaty? Sandhi. Sandhi. Foreign relations. So this again is very obvious. Sometimes the linguistic analysis of a term is good enough to give you the answer. So Sandhi, foreign relations. Shulk, custom. Mahadandnayaka, chief justice. Danda, prasadhikarakana, the police department. So when the danda is in the front, it is police. If it is in between, it is justice. Mahabaladhikrita. What is strength known in Hindi? Strength. Bal. Bala, military forces. So if you check, let's see each one of them. Hiranika, Audrinika. Hiranika is again a word used for tax or for coins. Sometimes just looking at the terms, you can automatically see what type of question match the following. They can give you this and they can ask you to match. But no question has come till this point. Fortunately, no question. So what I'm trying to tell you here is sometimes not learning is also good enough. Sometimes just analyzing the words is easy. So very simply, danda, front police, in between justice, Sholk, Hiranika, Sandhi, Kumara, and Mahabalagrita. Clear? Kumara Amatya, Amatya. See, Amatya is a word which was used in the Mauryan period itself. So Amatya automatically is an executive officer. So it's a term which has remained in that regard. Now I want to discuss the third process of Varna Samskara. Are we clear about administration? As you can see, administration is not that elaborate as it was in the Mauryan section. Because Maurya is more well defined. Gupta it isn't. Can we talk about the third process? Yes, Kamlesh, yes. The names which I give you are nothing but the Navaratnas. Okay. Now, we've done land grants. We've done the concept of what we call as Gupta polity, Gupta economy, Gupta administration, and Gupta internal manipulation. Now, yesterday I told you a concept called Varna Samskara. This is called Varna proliferation, or we call it as caste formation. Caste formation. Now, Varna Samskara, Varna proliferation, or caste formation, the two processes have been linked to the post-Mauryan period. What are these two processes? What are the two processes? The two processes discussed yesterday. What are they? One is assimilation and the other one is intermixing or exogamous marriages. Now, foreign population within the existing population and foreign population. All of them give subcategorization. or subgroups within the Varna system. Now, there's one more thing. The third process, was tribal assimilation. See, ironically, most of the land grants were given to Brahmins in today what we call as tribal zones of the Gupta Empire. Basically, they had not exposed to Varna system or Vedic Brahmanism. So what happens is that the third way a new set of Varna system emerges is when tribals got assimilated into the Varna system. Again, that led to further sub-categorization. And basically India, in India, assimilation of foreigners plus intermixing plus tribal assimilation together lead to caste formation, or what is called as Varna proliferation. You see, large scale land grants are given to Brahmins. Guptas were probably of Vaishya origin and were looked upon by Kshatriyas by the Brahmins. And Gupta kings for the same reason were given godlike attributes. In the process of doing this, the Brahmanas accumulated wealth on account of numerous land grants given to them. Caste proliferation into numerous subcastes was because of two factors. One, we already know, large number of foreigners which had been assimilated in society during the post-modern period. And second is that most of them were because of the conqueror class. They were actually added to Kshatriyas. But the second is the absorption of the tribal people into the Brahmanical society through land grants. In this period, we see that with agrarian expansion, for the first time, Shudras have now access to two things. First, they are given access to the recitations or access to religion vis-a-vis. They could listen to the three very important texts, the Puranas, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. But the more important point was that they were now becoming agricultural labor also. Because there was a need for more and more people to work in agriculture, there's a little bit of upward mobility within economic status of the Shudras, in that they are given access to agricultural tools and agricultural labor in that regard. However, for women, the access to economic mobility was not there. They were also given access to the concept of the scriptures being allowed to be listened. They could listen and they could sit in recitals for that. But Shudra position marginally increased. Women remained where they were. Women remained where they were. The question is in which century Puranas had happened. It's not happened. It was written. They are written texts. Oral traditions previously written during the Mauryan post-Mauryan period. Now, untouchables remain where they were, and there is even more expansion in the communities within the untouchables, the Chandals. However, women, as I said, only have access to these new texts. Their economic status does not change in any way or form, and the subordination of women of the upper varna was much greater than the lower varnas, which is high caste women, high varna women were controlled even more than the lower varna women, wherein at least Shudra women had access to now work with their families in the what we call as agricultural sector. So very simply, see, understand this point. The Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, written over thousands of years. So if you go with the text writing period of Ramayana and Mahabharata, it is not just 1 year, it is basically a whole period. So between, it is believed, third century, not even third century, first century CE to fifth, sixth century, these texts have been written. It takes a large, enormous effort in writing these very, very big texts, and that is going to be reflected in 500, 600 years. That is the standard process which is there. Now, economically, we have again reference to agriculture and a lot of luxury trade, and this is something which is there, that a lot of luxury trade is referred to, wherein trade in gold, silver, precious stones, object of ivory, cotton, silk, everything is referred to. And over and above that, craft production at this point of time was also becoming more and more what we call as specialized. So, sir, couldn't they change their caste? I mean, going to, no, no, no. That is not how things work. That is not how things work. You can change it. There needs to be recognition for change of caste. That will only happen when the whole system accepts it. We also have terms for agriculture, khila, apaharta, and kshetra. And the terms for the taxes, fortunately, are the same. Now you tell me, has this tax changed? Has the term for tax, land tax, changed? No, that is the whole point. Throughout history, bhaga has referred to land tax only. So bhaga, which is referred to in the Narad Smriti, 1/6 of agriculture produce, is again the land tax. Then we have bhoga and bali and kar. See, kar is a name for a generic tax. It could be anything. Bhoga is basically periodical supplies of basic raw materials to the king. So flowers, firewoods, fruits. Bali is a tax or a type of tax which is basically forced labor. And the word Bali itself starts to change initially as forced labor, then it changes to Vishti, and thereafter, now at this point of time, it refers to a tax over and above Bhaga. Basically, for your religious identity, you could be paying a certain type of tax over and above Bhaga. So, Bhoga is a tax which is basically voluntary. It's not voluntary, it's a mandatory offering to the king. Bhoga is land tax, but Bali is the one which is most interesting. It's a surcharge. It's a surcharge over and above your grain share because of a religious understanding. So Vishti and Bali used to be close to each other via these forced labor. Now Vishti is the word which is used for Vishti, which is basically forced labor. However, here now we are religious cess is there. So maybe if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Jain, you pay a separate tax itself. So these are the first set of taxes. Then you have other set of taxes for trade. Uparikara, which is a tax imposed on farmers without proprietary rights. Basically, it's a tenant tax. Then further, you have shulk or tolls, which is basically what we call as Yes, Bali used to earlier refer to a voluntary offering. You see how the word Bali is changing. It was a voluntary offering in the early Vedic period. Then it became a mandatory offering in the later Vedic period. Then it started to become closer to forced labor. Then Vishti emerged as a separate tax itself. And by this point of time, Bali has become a religious cess. So the term is changing. If Guptas were not considered Vaishyas in Gupta dynasty, what period are they? In their origin, proprietary rights mean ownership. Then a very important word emerges at this point of time. It's called Shreni. Shreni is called guild. It's called guild. Guild means or Shreni means a group of merchants coming together to protect their own interest. So basically, trading associations. Guild or Shreni is trading associations. They are craftsmen and traders organizing themselves into one set. Shreni, you can't call them cartels, but basically they are trade unions, if you want to call them. They are embodying the interest of that craftsman. So blacksmiths come together, goldsmiths come together, the merchants come together, exporters come together. It's basically a merchant association. It's a merchant association which brings in important cities at this point of time, cooperatives, if you want to say, sure. Takshila, Achitra, Mathura, Rajghat, Kaushambi, Patliputra. And here we see trade in multiple objects also. Trade in multiple objects also. Now, what I want to do now is I'll give you a breather here. 5 minutes. I'll give you a breather because what I want to do is I basically finished ancient with you. I have discussed Gupta polity, society, economy. I've discussed their administration. I've discussed their issues. I've in this moment finished ancient. I want to give you master timelines for ancient India vis-a-vis political, economic, and social, and then want to go towards post Gupta. But to do that, I want your attention. So, can I give you just a breather here, 5 minutes, and then we can, in the next half hour, consolidate all of ancient India together? Because if you will look at ancient India from a bird's eye view, you will realize it's not that difficult. It's because we've come closer to them, it's come seeming difficult. Once we go for the larger view, you will see it's much, much, much more simpler. Right? Okay. Can we say that art and culture flourished because Brahmins got economically stable? No, that is not true. As I said, they were considered Vaishyas before they became properly the kings. Okay, why were Shudras granted land? It's not for their upliftment. They're not granted land. They're not given ownership of land. They are now working on land for others. So there was need for labor. So the Shudras were given access to agricultural labor. Again, Rahul, I've answered to you 3 times. Either you are not listening to me or you are just randomly typing that. I have said I said this question. They are considered Vaishyas before they become a major power in their origin. What about Vakataka? Shweta, I will discuss it with you. Vakataka is only one person you need to know, Harisena. And that you see here. What about Vakatakas? Vakatakas are here. So don't worry. There are 3-4 names here. Only this person is important. This person, Harisena. He'll make the Ajanta caves. That is why he's important. Right? Are we clear? What were the Shudras doing before this? That were maintained as a society. Yeah, Shudras will given access to as tenant labor. Yes. Begar is a word which comes very late for forced labor. Can I give you a break? Yes or no? Okay. 8:30 we start again. Half an hour consolidation. Then we talk about the Vakatakas and then into post modern period. Ancient is over. Reflect upon it. If there are any doubts, you can also post them. Okay, an important discussion. Right. Political. How do you justify the view that level of Rahul, that's an art and culture question. I will discuss with numismatics with you. I will discuss this question with you later. So when we are discussing ancient, why are you bringing in art and culture? Numismatics is a topic which I teach you in art and culture. So don't worry. I don't know what is the hurry here that we somebody has to catch a train and give the examination. Let me finish this whole course and you will realize that everything will be covered. Okay. I'm consolidating everything, right? I hope you're getting the point of this discussion. Megalithic, Sangam, Sangam. Now, Paleolithic, no state, no state. Early state formation, mature state, but nature not known. Thereafter, tribal polity, chieftain, territorial, monarchical state, monarchies, and Gana Sanghas, Mauryas, centralized state, semi-centralized with semi-centralized with decentralization. One second. Semi-centralized with decentralization. Decentralization tendencies rise. Land grants. Gupta is decentralized empire. Megalithic early state formation. Mature state monarchical. Satavahanas decentralized. Vakataka decentralized. Does this make sense? Are you getting the point of what I'm trying to do here? Okay. You said in Chandragupta one matrimonial society, then where it is continued further. Rahul, write properly here. You need to write properly. What are you trying to say? Matrimonial alliances, not matrimonial systems. Monarchical means monarchy, king. No tax. Please write properly in the matrimonial alliances. Yes, matrimonial alliances will be further. We are not here to catch a train. You will write a same thing two times. So rather write it properly so that I understand what you're trying to write. Yes, matrimonial alliances will be taken forward. No tax, no tax, no tax, no tax. Taxation, bhaga. Then hereditary kingship and ritualized kingship. Here. If this is clear, we'll move to economy. Type of question of for state formation. There's, see, this is called revision. This is not for a question you have to write. This is for revision. I am basically doing 6 classes with you in one go. This is how you make notes. This is how you make notes. This is how you revise. I could have left this to you, but I am doing it myself because I believe that you should know how to make proper notes, because some of you make notes in the way that they are books. 200 pages of notes and 200 pages of the book and 100 pages of the notes itself. That is too much to read. Along with Vakataka, why not Sangam? Because Sangam politics by 300 CE will be gone. So very simply, are you understanding the purpose here? Okay, perfect. Now, next, economy. Whole South controlled by Vakatakas? No. Deccan. South has been got fragmented. There's no one polity there. If you make all in one, it will become so hodgepodge that you will not understand anything generally. So the reason I make 3 of them separately. Aren't we going to learn about Sangam polities? Please tell Sneha, have we done Sangam polities or not? Have we done Sangam polities? Chera Chola Pandya, Sneha, sleeping. First thing after Maurya, yesterday. Yes, that is all. That is all. That is the information which is there only. Chola, proper Chola, we'll discuss tomorrow. What is mean by IVC? No, Vechri, no, no, no. What is meant by IVC? Indus Valley Civilization. Mahajanpadas. Mahajanpadas. Indus Valley Civilization. Early Vedic. Stone, 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 bronze and copper, iron known, iron used. Thereafter, you have trade. Internal external trade. both. Okay, then anything else which is left? Maurya's, nothing very significant is happening. The same is true for them. Arrow means same. Also mention areas these phases were concentrated. Again, Shiva, not making sense. Have to tell me what do you mean by that. What to concentrate on? That is there only. Till Mahajanpadas, everything is barter. What about taxation? Open your eyes and see what is written here. Bhai, it is now 8:50. Still you are sleeping, then that is a problem. It says no tax, no tax, no tax, no tax, taxation, bhaga. So three times you have mentioned. What about taxation? Taxation is already mentioned. Sir, like West, East, Central India. Double distack industry, here it is written. Chituri, that is the basic point. Initial period, they have a lot of money. They give up out gold and then they start to decline. Gold is known since from this point forward only. Gold you'll find from here only. Gold you can even find here. Can I now go to social? Yes? Okay. Why we only consider agriculture, not craftsmanship and metalworks? Here it says iron, iron. Metalworks is written bronze, copper. Agriculture has a much bigger impact than craftsmanship. So craftsmanship in then in Paleolithic period itself. As soon as you make tools, it is that only. Punch marked coins were used in later Vedic period. No, only from the Mahajanpada period. Coin trade and coins in South. Again, I thought you will understand this. They are agro-pastoral, no trade. And Sangam trade is there. Trade is there. Pakataka trade is there. When I'm not specifying separately, it is true for that whole period. Currency is going to be the same for everyone. IVC is concentrated in Western India, Sangam in South, so on. You want their location. Say that you want their location. Indus Valley Civilization, northwestern sector. Later in early Vedic, North India. As I said here, you see, I have written here also. North, south, written here. And south you have megalithics. Coins I have already written here. Again, some of you are ये तो एक आंख बंद करके पढ़ रहा है. I don't know, either you're seeing from one eye. It says punch marked coins, Indo-Greeks. Can I move on, please? Okay. Simple society, simple society, complex society, social stratification, on occupational basis. Thereafter, early Vedic, occupational differentiation but egalitarian, megalithic, complex society, but we know nothing further. Now comes the most important. Fourfold Varna differentiation, or what we call as Varna system. This will go on everywhere. Just that in the Mauryan period, you have rise of untouchability. Post-Mauryan period, you have caste formation or Varna samskara, and Gupta Vakataka further Varna proliferation, which is Varna samskara. Now add to it religion, no religion, rituals and burials, rituals and burials, naturalistic religion, naturalistic religion based on Vedas, Vedic Brahmanism, first religion not known. Then Mahajanpada, rise of Ajivikism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Gupta, rise of Puranic Hinduism. Women equal to men, women equal to men, women equal to men. IVC, patriarchal, early patriarchal systems, patriarchy, but women equal to less than equal to men. Full subordination of women. Men are and that will go on forever. What is true for Sangam, what is true for More is also true for Sangam. Anything else which is can be added for that we assimilation and integration that is implied in Varna Samskara? Two processes here, one process here. There is no Sati. Post Maurya is not Vedic revivalism of Vedic Brahmins. It's Gupta, Satvana and Gupta. How it is concluded IBC was patriarchal. That is a known concept in the way of depiction, craft specialization, toys, crafts. As I said, early patriarchal. We believe it is early patriarchal, but again, not conclusively. We can't conclusively say that. This is questionable. But books will say it is patriarchal. Are we clear about this? I have basically in 3 slides given you the whole gist of ancient India. Does all of this make sense to you? There's no educational is nothing. Priyanka, Shudra, condition evolution, you can remember that minor point. In your major timelines, you don't add too minor a point itself. So, very simply, what I expect from you is that after certain revisions of ancient India, you should be able to make it yourself. This is how you revise. This is a glimpse of everything what we've done. And I told you that ancient India is logically linked. It's a progression. And this is the start. This is the starting point where we started. That there are facts. Obviously, there will always be facts, but there's a progression also, and that progression is what we have tried to understand. This is what makes Indian society what it is today. And in the medieval period, I'll again give you a timeline like this, but not political, social, economic separately, but a timeline for sure, so as to bring all of it together till 1707. So I started at 2 million BCE with you, and I've now reached till 600 CE, 500, 550 CE. Can I now talk about early medieval characteristics? No, Sejal. I firstly, Sati has nothing to do with the Gupta period. And for stop with this obsession with Sati. Sati is a very, very, very medievalish, early modernish thing. Even upward mobility people start to do it. As it is, whenever it started, I will never say when Sati started because Sati has no justification and no starting point vis-a-vis scriptures. So I don't know where you are looking for Sati, but there is nothing. Can we seek mains questions in other subjects like this year? See, if it comes this year, then it is consistent. But I think I have given that much understanding to you that you can write a mains question also. I hope. I hope that with the level of understanding which you have for certain things, you can still write. If somebody asks you Vedic society, if somebody asks you societal, caste, these things, if this logical progression you will remember, you will always remember everything. So it's not that the mains question are asking out of the box that stand on your one knee. No, it's not they're asking. They're asking very simple, straightforward questions. Throughout this story, I've been telling you how geography matters. Throughout this story, I've been telling you how society has been evolving. Throughout this story, I've been telling you how religion has been evolving. Throughout this story, I've been telling you how state has been evolving. It's a story of evolution of your own society. That is what we are trying to understand here. Now we move. Now we move to the next most important period, which is the early medieval. Early medieval. See, in history, how we divide our history generally is like this. Now I'm moving forward. I hope all of that is fine. Gupta calendar 319 C. Three calendars, Saka, four calendars, Gregorian, Saka, Vikram, 319, Gupta calendar. Now, see, if you divide our history in a certain way, you will get like this. 2 million BCE till 600 to 700 CE. This is basically called ancient. This is what we've covered. Then 750 to 1200 is called early medieval. Then 1200 to 1707 is medieval. 1707 to 1757 is called early modern. And from this till 1947, it's called modern. And then it's called post-independence. So we are now here. This you have in total 22. Yes, Sachin, these timelines are given in my book also in a similar fashion. There are 22 different political structures and polities which existed. So early medieval, now the question would be, what makes them early medieval? What makes them early medieval? What makes them early medieval? And what is or what are and I'm telling you one thing very straightforward. One minute, let me get my book. 1 second. When I talk about early medieval, just to tell you, 1 second. See, Yashovarman, late Gupta, Mokhari, Gaudas, Maitrakas, Pushyabhuti, Western Ganga, Kadamba, Chalukya, Pallava, Somvanshi, Varman, Vishnukudin, and Shalankas. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 here. And thereafter, Pala, Pratyara, Rashtrakuta, Chola, Rajputs, Thomas, Chauhans, Rathors, Chandelas, Chalukyas, Paramars, Kalchuri, Sena, Hoysala. All of this comes under early medieval. 13 there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. As I told you, 26 different dynasties are there in what we call as early medieval. Now, obviously, for you, not all 26 are relevant. The ones which we discuss, I'm telling you already, we will discuss the positioning of all of them. That's a separate issue altogether. But we will concentrate on some of them. I'll give you this chronological timeline of early medieval tomorrow. Once I'm done with early medieval, I'll give you the whole list of 26 in one place. But we'll concentrate on Chalukyas, the Pallavas, the Harshavardhana. Yes, that is the story of India. That in 450 years, you have 26 different dynasties. This is the Satvana poison which will lead to this. Chalukyas, Pallavas, Harshvardhan, which is nothing but Pushyabhuti. And thereafter, we will concentrate on Pala, Pratihara, Rashtrakuta, and Cholas. Whilst doing it, I will also refer to the other ones and give you the major facts about them. But our concentrated effort will go into these because they are very, very important. And we will therefore refer to the other ones. I'll give you the facts. But the questions revolve around Chalukyas, Pallavas, and the Harshvardhan. So Pulkesin II, Pallavas, Narasimhavarman, Mahamala, Raj Simha, and this and that. Harshvardhan himself. Then Palas, Patiyar, Rajputas, and Cholas. So please understand this point that for a net level or a optional level, maybe you would have to go through each one of them. But your saving grace is GS. So if we can agree to what we are going to do in today or rather tomorrow properly, I would then want to now tell you what makes them early medieval and why do we create a distinction. Yes, Kakatiyas also come there only. Kakatiyas is the last dynasty of early medieval. Shweta will talk about why Cholas survive, who are these Cholas. They are not the same Cholas. The name Chola survives, but they're totally different. Have nothing to do with Karikal Chola. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics of early medieval? Characteristics of early medieval. See, here we have four very major characteristics. Fragmented nature of polity, decentralization, feudatory mentality, which is selfish, myopic interests, and third, which is decline in trade and urban contraction, which is urbanization will start to contract and trade will start to decline. And last but not the least, fragmented armies, which is imperial or main army and feudatory armies. This is a very important point you need to know. When proper feudalistic tendencies come through, the central administration only has a very small army, and they rather have this fragmented army in which everybody brings their army together if they have to fight, and then they go back to their feudatories. So very simply, the way the political structure is changing is the way in which we are categorizing our periods also. So, Anshu will discuss the previous year questions of whatever is left tomorrow for ancient India. But again, previous year question obsession has to stop. But as I said, fragmentary nature of polity, from ancient to medieval and medieval to modern, that is a very British thing to say, because the British will say ancient Hindu, which is technically not true, medieval Muslim, and then colonial, what we call as modern. That is actually not true. That is a very communalistic vision of history. Rather, we have 6 divisions rather than 3. Everywhere there is a division between transitionary phases. So early medieval will exhibit all of these qualities in each of the polities. And once the Delhi Sultanate will come in, we will see the division or the movement to medieval. And then the Ikta, Nayankar system, Jagirdari, Mansabdari system will become important. And when India goes back to fragmentary politics again, which is 18th century, we go back to early modern. So imperial army and feudatory army. Feudatory. Every person who is your who's under you, main army, main. Everybody who's under you contributes something. This is, imagine that there was today the Indian army is one. Indian army is one. But imagine that the Indian army had two divisions, basically two types of armies. One was each state has its own army, and the central government has one army. And when it comes to fighting with the nation, all states contribute their army to the imperial army. That is basically what is called as a fragmented army in that. Right? Okay. Can I move and discuss the what happens? I'll just show you the way in which India changes from the Gupta to this period of early medieval. That is the last discussion I have with you. How many questions come from early medieval? Two questions have come in the past 2 years. But again, I don't know the purpose of that question. It doesn't mean that you can leave this section and move on. So Vakatakas, and that is the two things I will discuss with you. Don't worry. Urban contraction means, yes, in pre, obviously not in mains. Urban contraction means the destruction of urban cities and the movement towards ruralization. Now, when we talk about the Vakatakas, they were feudatories of the Satavahanas, and they are also Brahmins. And because they are Brahmins, they also keep on giving copper plate land grants. So they don't learn from the fact that they were produced by the same process which they are perpetuating. Understand this point. This is the problem with most of our political structures. The Vakatakas were a product of indiscriminate form of land grants, and they are going to do the same thing when they come to power. When they come to power, again indiscriminate use of giving Brahmins land grants, which is only going to lead to further division. So any cultural change we will see in medieval, that I will discuss in art and culture, that is after medieval. Now, when we talk about the Vakatakas, there's only one ruler which you need to know is about Harisena. He is the one who patronized the Ajanta caves. Other than that, Vakatakas have no purpose to our story other than knowing about Harisena. If you are interested, and if just because you need to know the political history, the one who started this is called Vidyashakti. Vidyashakti is the founder, performed Vedic sacrifices, we know that. Then comes Pavarsena I. He was ruling over the Deccan but moving towards the north also. He will take the Vakataka power very high and will even go towards the deep south. However, after he will die, now two divisions will be there. Two divisions will be there, wherein Vakatakas will be divided into two. One is called the Parvapura Nandivarman branch, and the other one is called the Vatasya Gumla or the Vatasya Gulma branch, which is one ruling from Nagpur, the other one ruling from the Akola district in Maharashtra. Harisena is the one who will bring both of them together, and he will bring both the branches together, stabilize the Vakatakas, but he is the one in the Thalner copper plate inscription. He is the one who has been attributed to make the Ajanta caves. Why am I telling you his name? Because in art and culture you have to talk about Ajanta. So when I say after maybe a week that the Ajanta caves were made by Harisena, will you be able to identify which Harisena I am talking about and which dynasty he belongs to? Yes, Vakatakas, no other purpose I have in my story. Now comes the most important discussion is what is going to happen to North India between 590 and 625. Out of this discussion itself, this 10 minutes discussion, a question came in the examination 2022. Straightforward discussion of what I'm going to do with you right now. Straightforward. So sometimes the discussions which I have vis-a-vis maps and movements can be very, very significant in your understanding. So I'm now going to start that discussion. So in 500 CE, we have two big units. One is Guptas and the other one is the Vakatakas. Anybody has any issue in this? I don't think so. You already know this. Now, by 590, which is by the next 100 years, now the Guptas have started to decline. The Guptas have started to decline. But does a dynasty automatically disappear one day? That today there were the Guptas and there will be no Guptas next day. That can't be. So what happens is that in the core region of the Guptas, we have the late Guptas. They're called the Guptas of Magad. There, they call the Guptas of Magad. However, now the feudatories will start to parcel the empire, which is there will emerge a power called the Varmans in the northeastern sectors. They're called the Varmans of Kamarupa. Kamarupa is the old name of northeast. Then you will have here one more, which is called the Pushya Bhutis. Then you will have one more, which is they are called the Maukharis. In the Deccan, Vakatakas will also split. They will give rise to in Gujarat sector the Maitrakas. Then you will have the Chalukyas, and then you will have the Pallavas. So basically, the Indian subcontinent has split up into multiple parts. So this is called fragmentary politics. You have the Pushyabhuti, you have the Maukhari, you have the late Guptas, you have the Varmans, you have the Maitrakas, you have the Chalukyas and the Pallavas. So seven different structures have emerged, and they all are either the reminiscence of the Gupta Empire or the Vakataka Empire, but they are not still stable. From where these dynasties emerge, the Pushyabhutis were the feudatories of Guptas, Maukharis were the feudatories of Guptas, Varmans are the feudatories of Guptas, Maitraka, Chalukya, Pallavas are the feudatories of the Vakatakas. Understand this point. All of them will keep on emerging from themselves, which is that the feudatories, till the person is powerful, they will remain under them. As soon as the central power is going to become weak, they will start to assert themselves. So when the period of Skand Gupta, the later Kumar Gupta, the period of Narsim, Baladitya and all, they are now starting to become active because they know that the Gupta king is useless. So you can see that there is an expansion. There's a very quick expansion which is happening in India, which is leading to what we call as, this is called fragmentation of politics. Fragmentation of politics. Now, this is still not complete because there is a process of further consolidation by 625. Can I discuss that? Are we clear with regards to where are they coming from, and what they are? Yes, very good. Now by 695, one second, by 625, there is a consolidation, and the consolidation is that the Pushyabhutis under a person called Harshvardhan, they will eat up the Maukharis and even the late Guptas. So they will basically, the Pushyabhutis will become the major North Indian polity along with the Varmans. So the late Guptas are gone, the Maukharis are gone. The Maitrakas, the Chalukyas and the Pallavas are going to now be the 5 stable polities which will exist. So if you look at it, now from this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you have one big empire which is called the Empire of Harshvardhan or the Pushyabhutis. Second, the Varmans. Third, the Maitrakas. Fourth, the Chalukyas. Fifth, the Pallavas. And but as you can see from the map itself, are they centralized empires? Are they centralized empires? No, they aren't. The map itself is showing central area and decentralized area. Now, what I want from you is to remember this map for 24 hours. Tomorrow, when I meet you, I will discuss the stories of these three. Can I do that? Yes. So today we have finished ancient India and we have transitioned towards medieval. And we are in the early medieval section. Tomorrow is going to be about early medieval. We will finish all of these dynasties. It is going to be a little bit political heavy, but that pain you have to bear because it is important to do that. On Monday, we start Turkish invasion, which is going to be extremely important. And by next Monday, we should be starting, next to next Monday, we'll be starting art and culture. So with this, you can now leave the session if you don't have a doubt. Thank you. I hope ancient India fear is gone and you are now much more comfortable with ancient India. And when you started with me and now with finish of ancient India, you are in the better position to, in a way, write everything, understand everything. And I hope the concept that misnomer that it's all facts is also gone. So Shreyank, I know that is not by me. You leave that to, I leave it to you what you do with it. I just want you to now consolidate ancient India and just understand what I've told you through the timelines. Right? Perfect. Perfect, Sachin. Perfect. That is nothing better. Nothing better. Any trick to learn difficult names? Make acronyms and learn each one day. Learn certain facts each day, divide it like a pizza, and you will never find facts problematic. Ancient medieval is for pre, yes. As of right now. Yes, Shiva, in a way. Sir, which type of question pre from ancient India? Every type of question is coming. Conceptual. I'll show you the questions. Conceptual, factual, every type of question is coming. Why did the Gupta rulers popularize Buddhism? They didn't popularize Buddhism. They patronized Buddhism at the same point of time because the commercial classes were still Buddhists. Okay. So I see you tomorrow, same time. Thank you. Take care. And we now transition towards medieval, which is much more interesting and less factual than this. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.